Track with a brand new car, the Ferrari 296 Challenge, as we launch what will be an epic season of Ferrari Challenge racing. Hello everyone, and very good afternoon to you, and welcome to COTA. Which is, as you can see, drizzling at the moment. The Circuit of the Americas. We've had all sorts of weather today, and just as we thought it was drying up nicely, it started drizzling once again, and as you can see, the track is pretty wet. So we're going to take a look right now at various parts of the track to see how wet it is. But let's take a look at our calendar for 2024. We're here at the Circuit of the Americas to launch our 2024 season before heading off to Laguna Seca. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal in support of Formula One. Then it's Watkins Glen International, Sonoma Raceway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the Finale Mondiale event in Italy at Imola mid-October, the grand finale. And as you can see from the images that we bring you here about COTA and Texas, altogether more appealing weather than that we're experiencing right now. This track is something of a challenge. 5.5 kilometers, 3.5 miles, very, very undulating as well, particularly the climb up to turn number one, which is some 133 feet. So a mix of very technical sections of the track, and then some more that are rather more smooth and flowing. And talking of smooth and flowing, there you can see the tarmac and the rain coming down. Track temperature is 24 degrees, the air temperature 21, 100% humidity, and no wind whatsoever, 2 kilometers per hour, which is very different to what we experienced very early this morning when we arrived here at the Circuit of the Americas. So, going to be difficult for our Coppa Shell drivers. Brand new car and brand new track conditions, because Tony Villander, Ferrari ambassador, who is alongside me, this weekend, and today in particular, first time that any of the drivers and teams have got to experience this brand new car in wet conditions.
Yeah, and we saw drivers handling the situation really well. There was a lot of grip from the tires, not really huge mistakes from driver's side, and it was exciting sessions towards almost a dry track. Now the situation is a roller coaster. We are back in the full wet track condition, and it will be patience game again, and also about the pace. Who has the most confidence with these wet tires on a brand new 296 Challenge car? So interesting 30-minute race ahead.
Thank you very much, Tony Villander. We're delighted to have him with us for pretty much all of our North America season here in 2024 to give us his expert view on everything. And it's not only Tony and myself, but of course also part of the presentation crew is Shay Adam, who I regret to say is down there in the pit lane in conditions which are not very nice for you, Shay.
No, it's a good day for ducks, as my mom likes to say. The rain is falling, and I wanted to come out here to the actual pavement to show you guys, because I have some brand new Pumas, so they're not going to give as accurate a description as I wanted, but look at how slippery this surface is. This is not ideal when you're a Pirelli tire trying desperately to grip up. And it's even worse when you are a cold Pirelli tire, because, of course, no tire warmers in this series. So the drivers are going to really have their work cut out for them on that single recon lap that they are on right now to try and get some heat built up. But then the lap behind the safety car. So it's going to be even more of a challenge for our drivers. Yesterday, we saw a dry qualifying in a dry race. Today, we saw a wet qualifying for Coppa Shell. And now, regrettably, it is going to be a wet race.
Shay, if I can be honest with you, I think you're running just a little bit too much negative camber on your Pumas. That's just my opinion, Tony. Bruce Cleveland, we're on board with now for Ferrari of Silicon Valley, and you can see the wipers in full effect here. And yeah, it's going to be very difficult to generate temperature into those tyres, because they've gone out for their recon lap, then they come back into the pit lane again before the rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. We mix things around today. The first cars out on track in our 3 fantastic races to come this afternoon are our Shell drivers. So the mix of Shell drivers and Shell Am drivers too, and it is properly pouring down now. So it's not only drizzling as it was just before we started on the air, it is properly teeming down right now. So this is going to make it very, very difficult for the drivers, and don't envy them being out there on track, as we can see Al Hegyi. And of course, across the Ferrari 296 brand new car, and Very interesting, Tony, about the wiper configuration here on these cars.
Yeah, I must say it caught my attention. Normally on these Ferrari racing cars we have a single wiper, so in this occasion Ferrari has decided to go with the double wiper on the windscreen, and it looks a bit exciting, let's say.
Well, of course, maximum visibility is critical to the drivers in challenging conditions, and that's what we have, and therefore the screen being cleared as much as possible, and still drivers on their recon lap, then making their way round to the pit lane, and the 189 car that we can see there of John Biscup, who did a good job in qualifying in difficult conditions.
And the latest pictures we see from the track, the carousel, a lot of water on track. So I think the condition is going almost towards an extreme. And now we see already a safety car, I think, is actually exploring, trying to see what the track condition is, because this is starting to be a little bit on the limit. Are we able to race or not?
Well, and that's what the safety car is doing. And the safety car is able to really assess the situation and the track conditions here. Now, of course, we love exciting, phenomenal motor racing, but we want everyone to be safe as well, Tony.
Exactly. Safety first. I had few occasions in my career where it wasn't nice. When the visibility really goes down, that you need to see on your side, left and right from the white lines of the track to see where you at, and absolutely no idea what's going to happen ahead of you. So that is not ideal. I love racing in the rain. Oh, we saw the safety car a bit loose.
Wow.
Going down the hill towards turn 11. I love racing in wet weather conditions. I love to challenge myself. I've done some good racing, good races, good results, but I don't like the fact when the visibility goes really down that it's not in your control, and that's not a beautiful feeling.
And that's the thing to consider. We talk about the grip, but of course it's also the visibility, because of the spray coming off the car in front of you. If you're anything other than P1, of course your visibility is really compromised. Visibility was not compromised when earlier on this weekend we sent Roberto Perina out to do an onboard lap for us, and what a brilliant job he did. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Roberto Perina, driver of the number 55 296 Challenge, and I'm going to take you for a lap around Circuit of the Americas. So coming down the front straight, super high speed, getting up to 6th gear, coming under the start-finish tower, and hard brakes here, down to 3rd gear, and rotate the car and get it going. Get back to the left because you've got to get hard back to the right, up onto the curbs if possible. Full throttle here. Try to maintain a lot of throttle through the bridge and into the S's, where it's just coast and hold on, and get the car turned into turn 6 where it's a little light brake, downshift, and try to get back on that throttle as quickly as you can. Light brake for 7, make that turn, get back on that throttle really hard. Hard brake for 8, and throttle up the hill, little lift, back onto the throttle as hard as you can get it, and we get going on what I call the back straight, or the medium back straight, into turn 11, which is an uphill brake zone, down to 3rd gear, back onto the throttle as hard as you can, try to get a really good exit. This is a super long straight. I like to check my emails and have a coffee here if I can. Come all the way down this back straight, 6th gear. This is massive, 170 miles an hour. Down to about the 150, big brake zone, lots of bumps. Down to 3rd gear, again, hard left-hander for 12. And then super hard brake for 13. Back to the apex, and try to get as much throttle here as you can, but you're rotating pretty quickly. Hard brake for 15. Settle the car, rotate it, super important, and then back on the throttle as quickly as you can to get back to the left, and then back to the right under the bridge, and it's the carousel. It's just hold on and somewhat pray. And then come into turn 19, which I think is the hardest corner on the track. It's a brake zone, downshift, and hard left. Very important to get a good launch here into 20, get that brake zone right. Get the downshift down to 3rd, and again, get a good launch onto the front straight, because this is a good passing zone into turn 1. And that's a lap of Circuit of the Americas.
Thank you, Roberto Perino, then giving us a great lap. I don't think anyone's going to have time to check their emails and have a coffee on the back straight today, that's for sure. There are, of course, some 12 left-handers, 8 right-handers on this track. And actually, Tony, it's a very, very bumpy track as well. And bumps mean unsettling, potentially, the car.
Yeah, drivers need to be careful in dry conditions on the hard braking areas going into turn 1, 11, 12. Mainly those places get over the years, over a season, it gets bumpier. And track has done several resurfacing operations over the last 10 years. And motorbikes, F1 cars, they've been struggling even more than our GT cars with the disconnections of the racetrack. But I think for our 296 Challenge and 488 Evo Challenge cars, the track is in very good condition overall. I mean the surface.
Thank you, Tony. Let's go down into the pit lane then, because it is time, despite the weather, for those immortal words.
Driver, start your Ferrari engine.
The president of Ferrari North America, Matteo Torre, who does it with such aplomb, and thank you very much. And
Matteo was under protection. He didn't went under the rain, huh? He was under a protected place where there was no rain.
yeah,
clever.
Yeah. There's a reason he's the president, isn't there?
Yes.
Right, I'm being told that the start is going to be single file behind the safety car, which of course is just very, very sensible, Tony.
Yeah, in my opinion, is the right call. We avoid the side-by-side start. We avoid possible contacts, and with the single line, there will be a little bit more gaps when the race goes green and we're approaching that turn 1. So very good call from the race director.
And of course, the race director will decide how long the safety car stays out there and leads these cars away. The clock will tick down, but it will be race control that decide just how long and how many laps they do behind the car.
Yeah, it's a two-way operation. So obviously, race director has a radio connection with the safety car, but also all the teams with their drivers. It's too much water. There is no visibility. These messages will go through these radio messages, and then the teams have a way to contact also the race director.
Thank you very much, Tony. Well, hold on to everything. This is going to be very, very exciting because we are about to go racing. So following qualifying earlier on today, of course, we set the grid, or really, rather the drivers set the grid from the times that they were able to post during the qualifying session. And here it is in full, going from pole position, Cyril Choksi alongside him, a good quality from John Visca, P2. To row 2 we move right now, where Robert McWilliams was P3 and Jan Bernier was P4. To the third row of the grid, so P5 and P6 for Ray Acosta and Bruce Cleveland. Next we go to P7 and P8, and they're occupying row 4 of the grid. It's Chuck Whittle and Osvaldo Gallo. They will be going from the P7 and P8 starting places. To the next row, we find Eric Marston and Mitchell Green, a 2:25.794 and a 2:26.845, the times that they were able to post in qualifying. It's P11 for Mike Luley and P12 for Lisa Clark, and they go from the 6th row to the 7th, where we find our Cope Shell Am drivers, Brian Waltersdorf and Roger Monteforte. Row 8 is Steve Check and Talal Sher. Talal Sher taking fine P1 yesterday. On to row 9 then, which is P17 and P18. Dana Goodwin and Roy Carroll. Roy looked particularly lively during qualifying at times. Maybe one to watch during the course of the race. Jerry Walters and David Williams, also two drivers to be reckoned with too, but they go from row 10 further back than they would like to be, P19 and P20. It's Jeffrey Nunberg and Paul Lynn on the 11th row of the grid, P21 and P22 respectively, and then to the 12th row of the grid, where we find Al Heggie and Darren Bernstein. That is your starting grid for our Shell and Shell Am drivers. The Shell drivers with the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, and then the Shell Am drivers with the black strip across the top of the windscreen. So drivers then getting acclimatized, I think, to the track conditions behind the safety car. And we will see how this plays out then for our Ferrari Challenge Coppa shall race the brand new car taking to the track in earnest this weekend. The Ferrari 296 Challenge, which has proven such a hit with the drivers. They all absolutely love this car, as Tony Villander has made mention in the elevation of this car, and the this is much closer to a real GT3 racing car, isn't it? Perhaps the closest we've been with a challenge car.
That is true. Ferrari made decisions, calls on aerodynamics, brakes, general handling, the dynamics of the vehicle, of the race car, in a way that we are close to a sister car, 296 GT3, and yeah, interesting way to the drivers to develop their skills, and then maybe one day pass even to endurance racing, where you use the 296 GT3 car. We are in the beginning of the era with this 296 Challenge, so there's still an improvement with the drivers themselves, but also with the teams to understand these cars better and to involve with the setup and the performance of the car.
Right, the race has started, albeit in a full course yellow scenario. The clock is counting down now. Circuit of the Americas, Tony, I alluded to earlier, some 20 turns, 12 left, 8 right. It's a counterclockwise track, very undulating as well. You've raced here a number of times. Would you consider COTA one of your favorites, Tony?
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites, and also I always enjoyed, somehow my driving it's been on a pretty good level always when I've been here. Some compromises on the car balance and setup work mainly towards the race. Always been a track with a quite high tire degradation, so you need to predict that, and with the setup wise, maybe a bit softer race car, but at the same time limited amount of understeer. So it's definitely been a track that I've managed to drive quite well.
We're on board with Bruce Cleveland, and you can see just how the visibility is compromised, and we are not at racing speed. Now, bearing in mind, under this full course yellow, what could happen here, I'm not going to predict things, but what could happen here is that the safety car stays out on this full course yellow, and over the next lap perhaps increases its speed to get you much closer towards your racing speed. But once the cars are at racing speed, visibility is going to be very difficult, and it's not only visibility through the windscreen, as you mentioned, Tony, but it is side visibility as well.
Yeah, it is true, and then when there's 4 cars side by side, the cars behind, basically the visibility goes down a lot. And now we see when the speed increases, so we are on the back straight between turns 11 and 12. As soon as you hit 200 kilometers an hour and close to 250, the visibility really goes down. And with these challenge cars, when they go around the track, you clean a limited amount of the racing line. Formula one thing with the huge flow underneath the car, so you clean the track more. Here with the GT car, with the challenge car, is a little bit more limited, and those raindrops, it depends a lot of the intensity of the rain that is coming down, and right now it seems to be a bit difficult to get this race started.
It was really interesting to watch Bruce Cleveland, who we were on board with there, and you know, Bruce Cleveland is following Ray Acosta, and what he deliberately did is he pulled out of Ray Acosta's wash, and that principally was so that he could see where he was going, Tony?
Exactly, that's a good thing to point, and also if something sudden happens in front of him, so he has a chance to escape, avoid possible collision. So that was a good thing. So the visibility right now is a little bit limiting factor.
Brian Waltersdorf we saw there in the 111 car, who is our leader in Coppa Shell Am. There you can see the 111 car and the spray that's coming off the tyres then as the rain is continuing to fall. It's you know, the track is properly wet now. Cyril Choksy, John Viscup and McWilliams then the top 3 for Shell. For Shell Am, it's Waltersdorf, Monteforte and Steve Check. And well, we're still under these full course yellow conditions, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we stay this way for a little while yet. Of course, ultimately, the race control decide, well, the lights appear to be off on the safety car now. Tony, is that an indication that it's going to come in at the end of this lap? Ordinarily it would be.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing, but at the same time there's so many things to spot that were the lights on earlier, so at least now they're turned off. Normally that's the sign that next lap we go green. So let's see what happens. Drivers really need to approach carefully when you go to a racing speed to see where the most of the water is. Like we said, visibility, stay safe, and that's the key today.
So Cyril Choksi, one of the big advantages of taking pole position from qualifying is, of course, you start in front of everybody. That becomes ever more important when you've got rainy conditions, because Cyril is going to have visibility that others do not have.
Exactly. Having that visibility, having that advantage, his opening lap needs to be 80%. He doesn't need to pull away 5-second gap on the opening lap. He needs to understand the racetrack and not to take too much risk. He was confident after the qualifying. He said, let it rain, I'm ready to go.
Yes,
I have the performance from myself as a driver, but also from my race car. So he was really confident going into this race too.
Well, we will see how it plays out, pans out in the next 25 minutes or so, and all the cars single file then in this full course yellow situation with the Richard Mills safety car out there leading the cars around. Now, I was going to say that the safety car had broken up a bit of a gap over Cyril Choksi. It's brought them back together again now. It will be interesting to see whether it does peel off into the pit lane, as our indication suggests it might. And, you know, it's a big grid of cars, 24 cars out there on track of the mix of Shell and Shell drivers. And we are being told in confirmation that we are going green at the end of this lap, Tony. I'm going to put my seatbelt on here in our commentary studio.
Yeah, this will be a really interesting start for this race, to see how the drivers are able to handle these difficult conditions. If there's going to be some aquaplaning, means that the car goes over the water, you don't touch the actual track anymore. So we are approaching to an interesting start.
And when you are aquaplaning, as you say, the water forms almost a filler between the tarmac and your tyre. You are but a passenger, aren't you, Tony? You have no control.
Yeah, exactly. There you need to be really careful where the front wheels of the car are pointing. When the aquaplan finishes, the car goes in that way. Same thing with the throttle and brake. So normally sort of like a yin yum moment where you just stay with the steering wheel pointing it straight, release the throttle, release the brake, and everything will happen by itself after that.
Right. This is going to be exciting stuff, that's for sure. For each and every one of those 24 drivers out there, we wish them all well, of course, for a 23, well, it'll be 22 minutes by the time we get, I would think, round and to the actual start. Cyril Choksi leading them away. Brian Watersdorf, of course, leads the cars away for the Coppa Shell AM category. A reminder to you, the Shell drivers with yellow strips across the top of the windscreen, the AM drivers with black strips across the top of the windscreen. So the Richard Mills safety car has peeled off then, and we are about to go green and racing. Ferrari Challenge, Coppa Shell, here we go. So cars then will dive and try and find some visibility from the car in front as the flag is waved, and Cyril Choksi immediately coming under pressure from John Viscup, who looks to the inside going into turn number 1, and a little bit further back, Jan Bernier trying to make moves around the outside as well, as Ray Acosta almost getting caught out there. Our fingers are crossed that everyone gets through turn 1 unscathed. A little bit of panel rubbing is perfectly all right, but that's all we want to see as Cyril Choksi continues to lead this race. But John Viscup is really taking it to him and staying with him, and those two breaking away a bit from Robert McWilliams, who is running in P3 ahead of Jan Bernier, who's under pressure from Ray Acosta. Then it's Bruce Cleveland and Chuck Whittle. So there we can see the Jan Bernier car and the car of Ray Acosta. They are contesting this P4 place at the moment. And a bit of a train of cars then lined up behind as well. And every driver, I think, being a bit tentative in this early stages of the greens as we have gone to racing. And it's all very well, you know, being as quick as the car in front of you, but to try and find a way past the car in front of you in very challenging conditions. And unfortunately, Jan Bernier has gone around, so too has Bruce Cleveland. We kind of heard that, and Jan Bernier's car is in all sorts of strife. We're on board with Bruce Cleveland. Healthy regard by all the other drivers who are able to avoid. Good awareness of who is where. And it's a great shame to see Bruce Cleveland pointing in the wrong direction. Here's how it happened, Tony Villander.
Yeah, turn 11, place where even on dry conditions yesterday, some overtaking maneuvers didn't end up so well. So for sure at the apex of the corner, misunderstanding. Driver inside, other driver blocking, protecting his line, and this is why the contact happened. We didn't have a clear view if something happened. Actually, even before that, a driver had issues with the braking point and just broached the apex. So the cutting point of the corner just too fast, and now we see some damaged cars.
That's Chuck Whittle with strife on his car, the 166 car, and other cars with damage as well. So we could see that the car of Bruce Cleveland was stricken. We saw that the Jan Bernier car had been damaged as well. A track control arm, I think, had been broken because he wasn't able to steer the car. But in the meantime, we have gone to a full course yellow, just as John Viscup was lining up Cyril Choksi for a overtake potentially.
Yeah, John Viscup seems to have a good pace in these really demanding wet weather conditions. He even was challenging Choksi for a few corners. Choksi at the start of the race was a bit cautious again with his throttle, and for the start of the race he was not able to pull any gap. There was actually 4 or 5 cars just bumper to bumper, so he was risking it a little bit for the start, but as an opening lap he was able to remain in the lead of the race.
Just to remind you, if you didn't join us for the Coppa race yesterday, Cyril Choksi once again had qualified on pole position, but by his own admission made a mistake going into turn number 1, and he'd hit the rev limiter of his car, which basically meant that he was in the wrong gear going into turn number 1. Turn number 1 has been something of a difficulty for Cyril Choksi in both of these races. Regret to say that we have lost Jan Bernier, Bruce Cleveland, Chuck Whittle, and yesterday's Coppa Am winner, Talal Sher, I can see, has gone into the pit lane as well, Tony. So whether he got involved in that or not, I would have thought he was further back than that, to be fair. So I think possibly a different situation. Steve Check then for Ferrari of Rancho Mirage is leading for our Shell Am drivers in that gold and black liveried 296 Challenge car. Every colour scheme that the drivers have chosen for their cars this year seems to work really, really well. There was once a time, and Tony mentioned this, that you would always imagine it to be all red, but with the blank canvas for 296, some beautiful looking cars. Osvaldo Gallo has made up 3 places, as has Eric Marston, but the big mover up is Steve Check, up 6 places as we look at the overall progress on the left hand side of your screen. So Chuck Whittle, Jan Bernier, Bruce Cleveland, and Talal Sher, we regret to say we think we have lost from this race. We can see a recovery truck on its way then to either retrieve the stricken Jan Bernier or Bruce Cleveland car. The recovery teams and the track recovery teams work really, really hard to get everyone back in order as quickly as they possibly can. And of course every driver is absolutely okay. Now that's interesting. You can see both Massimo Perena and Roberto Perena looking on. All the data that's provided to the teams here, of course they get our live pictures, and if they so choose they can listen to Tony and Dave as well, but they have all the data up there and all the timing screens as well. They can see what's happening, and they absorb so much information, Tony, and yeah, the teams really, really do work hard, and they will be looking at this and seeing how this track is developing for the benefit of those drivers that will be going out later on.
Yeah, I think the biggest information comes from the images, from the footage we are delivering during the race, and these drivers can really see the conditions out there and what these Coppa Shell drivers are doing on track, how choosing the racing line, where is the most of the standing water. And again, we see areas of the racetrack where there is a lot of water, and then maybe the older tarmac is putting away the water a bit more. So also with the grip and the amount of water on track, it varies between different type of surface.
Yeah, that surface differential, once you've resurfaced, it does make a difference. Down there in the pit lane, I'm seeing that we've probably lost Chuck Whittle, Jan Bernier, Bruce Cleveland, but also Talal Sher and Shea Adams down there in the pit lane hopefully can bring us a bit more info.
Yeah, we have lost the 120. That car has gone back behind the wall. Chuck Whittle's still sitting in the pit lane, and we are waiting to see what other cars will be making it back in, as are many of the other drivers hanging around for the upcoming 2 races, seeing what the track conditions are looking like and evaluating lap by lap the rooster tails that go down the front straight. But this is a good place to hang out. There's an even better one, and earlier this week, I got to go explore it a little bit more.
At the end of every Ferrari Challenge weekend, this is the place where you want to wind up, top step of the podium. It's where every driver aims to finish. And the friends and family can hang out here too. We've got a great seating area and a big screen, but there's an even better place to watch the racing on track. Let's go explore Ferrari hospitality. Welcome to the very exclusive Ferrari hospitality. As you can tell right now, things are a little bit calm because we haven't quite started the lunch rush yet, but this is the top of exclusivity. You come in here, you are treated to world-class chefs. There's drinks aplenty if you're feeling like champagne, maybe a little bit of tequila, but there's so much more to it than just the food and the drinks that you can get. There's shopping as well. If you feel like finding something new, your style is found in Ferrari hospitality.
There's even a spa, and I haven't even shown you the best part yet, because when cars are on track, there is no better place to be. Just look at this view.
Shay gets some fantastic gigs and does it so well. And hospitality, I have to say, Tony and I have the privilege of being in there, and yeah, it's really, really enjoyable and really luxurious, and a great place for us to spend some time with, of course, our drivers and their families. And it's what's part of the whole Ferrari racing experience. It's so much more than just the racing that goes out on track. I mean, the whole paddock is alive, and it's a great place to spend some time.
Yeah, great way to meet the people, to sense the atmosphere of the racing weekend. Great food, which is not maybe the best option, at least for me, but great food, great atmosphere, and it's like you said, it's not only about the race cars on track, but it's living that Ferrari experience, spending these weekends together, and there's always rivalry on track.
Of course.
But when you see the drivers talking to each other, having fun, that's what makes me happy.
Yeah, and I have to say that's as the Bruce Cleveland car has been recovered, that's what I've always found with the Ferrari challenges. You're absolutely right. Every driver that's out there is a competitor of yours, and you want to beat that person. But actually, such great friendships which stand the test of time and stretch far beyond motor racing are formed as part of the Ferrari Challenge weekends. And that is a really, really, really nice byproduct of Ferrari Challenge. So we are with a full course yellow during this Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell AM race. We're live from the Circuit of the Americas, and the safety car is leading the cars away. Then we've had a couple of cars that have needed to be recovered, and once they are recovered, hopefully we will go back to racing, but they are very difficult conditions for our drivers. And forgive me, I'm not surprised that there have been one or two comings together through no fault probably of for drivers, but more as a consequence of the conditions that the drivers are having to try and get to grips with out there. Very, very difficult indeed. Cyril Choksi is leading the race at the moment for the Coppa Shell drivers, and for the Shell AM drivers it is Steve Check that's leading. But we are under the control of race control, and the Richard Mills safety car in this full course yellow is out there leading the cars away, and the lights have gone out on the safety car, so that would indicate that it is going to come in at the conclusion of this lap, Tony Villander, and we will go back to racing.
Yeah, we had limited amount of laps at that first start after the safety car, so drivers are still trying to understand what is the condition out there, where is the worst areas, where is the standing water. But yeah, it's good that we get this race going. We have a little bit less than 12 minutes to go.
John Biscup is going to be a man to watch here. He was lining up Cyril Choksi going into the final turn just as the safety car was called for. And I think he was ready to have a go. And so too is Robert McWilliams, looking very lively as well. Don't rule out Ray Acosta or Osvaldo Gaio, who has done a great job in moving up the order as well. So Cyril is not going to have it all his own way. What he will have to his advantage is the fact that he will have completely clear visibility. You can see he's having to use his wiper on intermittent rather than full chat flat because his visibility is not as compromised as those drivers that are following. Okay, so it is now the responsibility of Cyril Choksi to control the pace of the restart then. And it is down to John Viscup to try and anticipate when Cyril will give it 100% on the loud pedal as we get the greens flying. And let's go back to racing again. This is Ferrari Challenge, Coppa Shell. And the Coppa Shell and Coppa Shell AM drivers then heading down the main straight and then onto the turn number 1 after climbing uphill. It's a great place to try and put on an overtake as Eric Marston looking lively there, trying to get to the inside. You can see there's Osvaldo Gallo. So Eric Marston then, he was trying to have a go, and John Viscup was not able to put the move on Cyril Choksi going into turn number 1, and Cyril has broken away, as indeed has John Viscup, and there's a bit of a gap now before we see the third place driver, which is Robert McWilliams. Steve Check leading for the AM drivers with Brian Waterstorff and Roger Monteforti running P2 and P3. So through this sequence of turns then, and trying to keep the cars very much on the tarmac, which is going to afford you the most grip that you're going to find, because once you go onto the painted lines, Tony, the grip becomes a little bit more tricky.
Yeah, painted lines and the exit curbs are the places to be really careful. At least the race car needs to be pointed straight, not with the steering angle while you're on the exit curb. So a better restart from Cyril Choksi. So John Winkup was not really there to challenge him. Now it's down to the performance again. John Viscup looks really aggressive, and let's see the braking into 12.
He is taking a look at the inside line here. Now, that could be just for visibility purposes as they both brake now. Cyril Choksi leading. John Viscup now following in the wheel tracks of Cyril Choksi, and Robert McWilliams and Ray Acosta getting very, very close together there. Ray Acosta having to run a bit wide there as Robert McWilliams protected his line, and unfortunately we have seen another coming together, and I wonder if that is the 179 car of Mitchell Green, the Ferrari of Westlake driver. I think it was. I think I may have picked that up correctly. I hope so, but got it going and back in the right direction once again. Yes, sure enough, it is the 179 car of Mitchell Green, who finished P5 in the race yesterday. I wonder if he has sustained any damage to his car. Yes, you can see the back end there is a slightly different shape as John Viscup now really once again taking this to Cyril Choksi, taking a different line into the final turn to try and give himself a bit of a slingshot, Tony.
Yeah, he actually had a good exit. He chose the wider line going in, and he had a good run now on the front straight. And let's see the braking uphill into turn 1, a really bumpy one, and need to really predict and to see where the apex of this corner are. So these two, the two leaders, they have a little bit more pace, and it's a tight battle between them two. Feel like John Viscup at this point, he has a little bit more grip, or Cyril Choksi is taking it easy these opening laps. Does he have more performance? Can he increase his speed? So again, completely different racing lines, so it's very interesting to see.
You, of course, every corner you try and straight line it if you can and make it as less angular as you possibly can to give you as much speed. You have to be cautious of track limits, of course, but there is no doubt about it, Tony, you've called it quite correctly, that John Viscup, he appears to be altogether more aggressive, and part of this will be psychological to just really worry Cyril Choksi ahead of him. And you can see the lines that they're taking are very, very different, but there's almost as exciting a battle going on for P3 as well, because Ray Acosta certainly wants that P3 position, and to take that away from Robert McWilliams, it could almost be a four-way fight for P1 at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like in almost a half a lap, we suddenly have almost 4 cars fighting for the lead. So is it the way that Cyril Choksi's pace is creating the fact that suddenly we have 4 cars fighting for the lead? Overall, it looks like these 296 challenge cars with the new Pirelli tires, they have a lot of grip. We don't have much oversteer. We haven't seen much oversteer. We haven't seen cars really loose at these difficult conditions. So it looks like these Pirelli tires are really performing.
7 minutes remaining in this race. And Cyril Choksi leading with John Viscup running in P2 ahead of Robert McWilliams, Ray Acosta. And don't rule Osvaldo Gallo out of this as well. He's nearly on the tail of Ray Acosta. Not quite, but getting closer to it. As Cyril Choksi then just cautiously and consciously thinking about his race, not worrying about what's happening on the rear view screen, as now trying to put himself alongside Cyril Choksi. Here comes John Visca, and trying to almost propel Cyril Choksi into making a mistake. That's what he would like him to do. And equally, Ray Acosta is trying to do the same with Robert McWilliams. So again, let's see if anybody behaves differently going into turn number 1 after the uphill stretch of this start-finish straight. So anyone going to dive to the inside here? I'm not sure that John Viscup is quite close enough to be able to do so. And the door is right royally closed by Rob Williams on Ray Acosta. So it's the P1 through 4 remains the same as we complete another lap with 5 3/4 minutes remaining in this Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell race. So through the S's they come then. I believe that almost everyone, with the exception of Cyril Choksi, is beginning to be a bit braver across the curbs, Tony. Cyril is keeping it neat and between the white lines. Everyone else appears to be just trying to shortcut a little bit where they can. We will see if that will pay dividends in due course. For the Coppa Shell Am driver, Steve Check is leading from Waltersdorf, and Dana Goodwin is up to P3 with Roy Carroll P4, and losing out is Roger Monteforte.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen it all yet with the top 4 drivers right now. The drivers are well informed that it's 5 minutes to go, and they definitely know when is the time to make the move, if there are moves to be done. So exciting. A little bit of gaps at one part of the track, then seems like the others are catching a bit in various sectors of the track. So there's not a clear driver who is on really quicker on a complete lap, and now we're starting to see that the aggression level, the will to overtake, is increasing.
When the teams and drivers in combination set the car up, it's always a compromise, because there are different, as you mentioned, different sectors. So there's some sectors more technical than the other sectors, and the setup is always a compromise to try and get the mean best across the entire track, Tony.
And
but drivers set up differently, or teams set up different.
Yeah, that's 100% true. But here we had another issue. We were delayed this morning. We tightened up the schedule with the qualifyings, and we went straight to the race. And the weather kept changing from wet track to a trying track, and then one session we had completely on slicks. And coming into this race, suddenly the sky opened again, and the rain came down. So teams didn't have time to react with the setup.
John Viscup, John Vidal, oh, that is the save of the day. Tony Villander, you've raced hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of races, but my goodness me, John Viscup, how did he hold on to that?
Yeah, that was a Max Verstappen save right there. So coming out of the second last turn, riding the curb, and he lost the grip on his right rear tire and almost spun. He was able to brake, control the car. He's still P3.
Wow, that was a save. For the moment, breathing a sigh of relief is Cyril Choksi. You have to say, you have to give it up to John Viscup for trying, and my goodness me, what a great save. Cyril Choksi now, Rob McWilliams is up to P2, John Viscup is P3, and Ray Acosta is P4. Well, Tony Villander almost fell off his chair, and that was that could have been oh so different. So fair play to John Viscup. So Steve Check, and then it is running in P2 in the Shell Am drivers is Brian Waltersdorf, P3 Dana Goodwin. So we will see now, is Cyril Choksi going to come under pressure? I rather think so, from McWilliams, who is right behind him, and he's picking up the mantle that John Viscup has laid down there for him. Now, once John has recovered himself from that fairly scary moment, I would have thought, he's probably going to try and refocus, and in the remaining 2.5 minutes of this race, try and come again maybe, and wrestle back at least P2. We will see. We are running out of time for this race, and I have to say, generally speaking, credit to these drivers, Tony.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same. They are driving like 100% official racing drivers, pro racing drivers. So these conditions are very hard, and we've seen a clean fight throughout the race. So it's been great to see.
Absolutely. Cyril Choksi leading from Robert McWilliams and John Viscup, and Ray Acosta. Osvaldo Gallo is running P5, Mike Lully up to P6, and then it's Eric Marston. And here we can see John Viscup then. He's not done with this yet. And we now have a four-way fight as Cyril Choksi, who is not the quickest car out there.
Yeah, he really took easy the last 2-3 turns, and what happened? What happened again? We had suddenly 4 cars fighting for the lead of the race.
Well, as they head towards the checkered flag, Cyril Choksi holds on to it, but I have to say, for Robert McWilliams, John Viscup, well done to them. Now, bear in mind that the still a battle going on in the Shell Am drivers as well. Steve Check and Brian Waltersdorf. Now, we can see here the 1-2-4 car of Steve Check heading towards the checkered flag. And he takes the win for Shell Am ahead of Brian Waltersdorf. And then it will be Dana Goodwin that takes P3. Well done to all of our drivers for delivering a compelling race. Well done to Steve Check. Well done to Cyril Choksi. And you can see how happy he is. He is the Coppa Shell winner.
And also Osvaldo Gallo, last lap, he did the fastest lap of the race. That was really, really impressive. I met Osvaldo many times with the Club GT.
Yes.
And it's great to see him racing here in Coppa Shell with the new 296.
Well, for Cyril Choksi, 2 out of 2 this weekend is a perfect start to your 2024 campaign of Ferrari Challenge Racing, and well done to him indeed. But I was concerned there wouldn't be a lot for us to talk about. However, Tony, there was.
There was plenty of things going on, and what kept us really excited was the conditions on track and how the drivers were able to do such a tight battle. We had 4 cars on the main straight separated by less than a second, 1.2 seconds for 4 cars, so very, very tight race.
It was, and really, really enjoyable for us to be able to bring that race to you, so I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. Whew. Need to go and have a lie down now, if I'm honest with you, because that has taken quite a lot. But what I'm really impressed with is how the drivers, you know, they knew the conditions were going to be very, very difficult. They were very, very difficult. On the most part, they really, you know, drove within their capabilities, Tony, and held on to, you know, what could have been so different, let's be truthful.
Yes, excellent race, excellent execution by the drivers.
Here comes the confirmation then, Coppa Shell Race 2, Cyril Choksi taking the win from John Viscup and Robert McWilliams. They are P2 and P3. Then it was Ray Acosta, Osvaldo Gallo, Eric Marston, Mike Luley ahead of Steve Check, winner of Coppa Shell Am, then Brian Waltersdorf and Roger Monteforte occupying the 2 and 3 places ahead of Roy Carroll. Then it was Lisa Clark, Jeff Nunberg, Paul Lynn, and David Williams, Al Heggie, Chuck Whittle, and all of those ahead of Tal Al-Sher and Darren Bernstein. Darren Bernstein didn't start. Tal Al-Sher regrettably parked the car early, and well, probably the best visibility that you would have ordinarily would be from that observation tower. I'm not absolutely sure that's the best visibility for today, but who knows? If you're up there and enjoying it, well done to you for being brave enough to even go up there, which is certainly braver than me. So cars bringing themselves back into the pit lane then, and of course it's pretty non-stop stuff when it comes to the Ferrari Challenge, because the Trofeo Pirelli cars will be out on track momentarily as well for their race, so lots of racing going on, and it's a fairly non-stop schedule of great stuff with the Ferrari Challenge as we launch our 2024 season here at the circuit of the Americas, just outside Austin in Texas. So cars being guided into the right places, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Shea Adam will be trying to get hold of Cyril Choksi very, very quickly indeed, as Cyril makes it 2 out of 2 this weekend. A very good job done by him. He'll be very happy with his start to this campaign this year. So he is being unbuckled as we speak, and will be climbing out of the car momentarily. And yeah, I think given the difficulty of the conditions, you really do have to take your hat off to all of these drivers for doing so well in very challenging challenging conditions. Congratulations all round for Surreal Choksy then. And big thumbs up to our camera as the rest of the cars make their way into the paddock area here, which is extensive, as you can imagine, with so many cars racing. Very, very big paddock, which following the wind earlier on today, some of the structures not looking quite the same as they did when we started the weekend, but thankfully everything is absolutely fine. And I have to be honest with you, when the rain and wind came down as much as it did earlier on today, credit to everyone in the organisation of the Ferrari Challenge that we are racing, because I wasn't absolutely sure that we would be. It was so severe, and we can see that Shea Adam is standing by to talk to a very, very happy Surreal Choksy.
Should be very, very happy. It's one thing to win in the dry, it's another thing to win in the wet at the exact same track the same weekend. What's it like to have that confidence to know now that you can get it done no matter what the conditions are?
Oh, it's great, and the conditions were a lot worse than quali. It was really wet, really slippery. You saw a few people going off, and so you had to adjust as the race went on, but it was clean mostly, and yeah, it's great, great feeling.
You've got a bit of a rainmeister as a coach now, and Andy Lau bestow upon you to keep it calm and cool and collected.
What he said is expect a problem at turn 1 and then get angry ahead of getting in the car. Like yesterday, I made a mistake at turn 1, and just be calm and drive forward. The race will come to you. And yet again, he was right. I didn't make the mistake this time, but I had a lot of pressure. But it's great to have the support of the team, the family. Andy's a great coach, and so I'm really grateful.
Congratulations on a perfect weekend.
Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Dream come true.
Well done, Surreal Choksy, and well done, Shea, for getting hold of him literally the moment he got out of the car. Very interesting what he was saying there, the advice that had been given to him by his driver coach, and, you know, let the race come to you. And, yeah, he certainly didn't make the mistake that he made yesterday.
Yeah, those are wise words, because it is difficult for everybody just to get too excited or get too excited about the situation and do mistake by your own. You play yourself out of the race. So let the race come to you means that do the laps is needed to get up with the speed. So that's a great way to approach these difficult weather conditions.
Well, Surreal Choksy made it count in Coppa Shell, making it count in Coppa Shell. I'm Steve Checkers with Shea Adam.
Steve, you just said to me, first time, what's it like to be a race winner in the Ferrari Challenge Series?
It's a lot of fun. Boy, we've come a long ways in 2 years, and I'm so happy to be here, and I love this weather. All right, you just bring it on.
Were you doing the rain dance earlier?
I could have been, but I told my coach, you know, I'm from Minnesota, we can drive in crappy weather, and here we are. So, and he pushes me hard. He's no patience with that guy.
New livery for this year, is that what made the difference, giving you a different mindset coming into the season?
It was supposed to be blinded by the light, so, but it's all fun. This is all fun. This is all about fun and competitive, but still just fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Shea.
What a song that was from Manfred Mann. And many, many congratulations to Steve Check and to Surreal Choksy and all the drivers. Thank you so much for watching the Coppa Shell race from Tony and myself. Bye-bye for now.